welcome back to the latest episode of the Master of None podcast. I am your host, Stephen Murphy, joined by the usual rugby crew, Sam and Westy. If you haven't noticed already, they are pretty excited. Big win for the week at the weekend. We'll get into it though, but it is 2021. It's our first podcast of the new year, boys. I am excited and invigorated for a new year, boys. I hope you two are as well. Westy, Sam, how the hell are you?
I've already tweeted 4 times this year. I'm taking it seriously now.
You've been really
taking it seriously this year.
Yeah, this will last a week. And then
I learned how to make Twitter GIFs today. That's how busy I was at work.
You've been getting very official with your tweets as well.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to see more of Ben O'Donnell, go to
Who doesn't want to see more Ben O'Donnell? That's pretty good.
Correspondent on the ground, Jonathan West.
I thought he was going to sign off the tweet with regards Jonathan West. That's how official it was. It was
Pascal Sheehy, RTE News.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, boys, we're back. We got some rugby to talk about, which is good. I don't know about you guys, but I missed the podcast. I really did over the Christmas. Spend time with your family. What a fucking boring thing that is to do. But we're back. Yeah, exactly. I wonder what game we'll start with, boys. I don't know about you, but Ulster Munster was a bit of a classic. I don't know about you guys.
Ulster Munster was a really interesting game until about 20 minutes later.
I know exactly. Connacht Leinster. What do we get? First of all, Leinster and Munster both lost in 2 interpros, so that's one thing to celebrate. No hate on Leinster and Munster. It's just they tend to win a lot. So we'll start with the Connacht game. Obviously, lads. I don't even know. I don't even want to talk. I think you two should just go on for about half an hour. Do you want to, Westy, talk us through it, Westy. How amazing of an evening was it for you?
It was pretty amazing. I did kind of say during the week, I saw the Leinster team and I was like, if we're going to beat them in the RDS, it's now. Because we beat them in the sports ground 2 years ago. We beat them in the Pro 12 final 2016. It's not something we haven't done before. A lot of
they're just well spaced out.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Leinster since then have, been pretty much unstoppable. They've only lost to the very kind of best. So it was a massive night. I think you saw the line speed from the get-go. You kind of knew something interesting was going to happen. And for me, the only really worry I had was if we could maintain that intensity, which is a problem that Connacht maybe have had at some games in the past, maybe the week before against Ulster. But no, for such a disruptive week, 5 positive COVID cases in camp during a week, multiple close contacts having to be isolated. We also, Bundy is injured. We have another of our internationals are out. So, we had 2 academy lads and a lad who's probably first ever game of professional 15s on the bench to come on. So, just a brilliant performance from Connacht. They're really kind of smart game plan against Leinster. I just think we were very impressive how we kept our composure for pretty much the full 80 minutes.
We gotta keep our composure. But yeah, Bod. As soon as we bring Bod in, game over. Connacht's gonna dominate the league. That's what it's. I wonder if he was afterwards, being like, "This is the Leinster everyone talks about. This is piece of piss.
Where are those guys? Bottom of the league."
Yeah, exactly. But Sam, of course, incredible evening for you. This will probably be up there with the birth of your child that's coming in May. Has to be.
Yeah, well, Bod it's getting up there in terms of possible names. The only worry would be if people misconstrue my allegiances because
99% of people be like, "Is that Arthur O'Driscoll?" You'd be like, "No,
Ben O'Donnell."
Yeah, Ben O'Donnell.
2 good years at Connacht and then signed for Claremont. But no, seeing him have his debut is something we've all been excited about since he signed. Just with the prospect of a sevens player is always going to add that little bit of excitement, and also how unbelievable Porch has been since we signed him. He's gone from strength to strength really this season. I don't think Tiernan O'Halloran fit can compete with him now the way he's playing. It's been years since we've seen Tiernan O'Halloran play to that level, and that's not to take away from him because he's been a brilliant servant to Connacht, 150 caps, great player, unlucky with injuries last few years, but Porch has just added so much to that full back position where we've been kind of hit and miss for a good year or so. The game going into it, kind of speaking to the girlfriend and saying we're on a bad run of form at the moment. The 2 close games in the Heineken Cup, which were unfortunate, but against 2 extremely difficult teams, and then the poor showing against Ulster, where we thought we were completely dominant, just couldn't score, and that's kind of been a feature of a lot of our games recently, where we've been in the 22 for long periods of time and not been able to capitalize on it or get anything other than 3 points out of it. So then to come out against Leinster team and do what we did, I think that leading into the game, I was like, you know what, Leinster a little bit on the ropes, not being overly convincing in the last couple of weeks, regardless of the fact that they were like running away with the league and been unbeaten in 2 years. They were genuinely like a little bit shaky, and they had a few injuries, and I kind of thought, you know, if ever there was a time to beat them, this was it. The run of form has to stop at some point. The hoodoo of RDS has to stop at some point. Like, everything has to click for us at some point. And I started to kind of think, okay, maybe this is the opportunity. And then it was, and you can see it from minute one. There was intensity, like the Sammy Arnold and Tom Daly hunting down the ball in the first minute really just set the tone for everyone. And then Oliver was brilliant in the back row. I was extremely impressed with how kind of calm and collected Robson McCoy was, because his ability has never been questioned. It's his temperament that's been questioned. I thought that Buckley was his usual brilliant self. I thought that Delahunt was very, very impressive for someone who was, you know, I think he's very good, but he's still got question marks over him. I thought Quinn Rue put in the shift of a lifetime, was just dominant. Gavin Thornbury made such a big difference. The line out functioned. I think everything really started to click for us, you know, and even the likes of Alex Wooten, by, you know, his own standards that we've seen this season, was probably his quietest game for us, but he was excellent and finished his try well when needed. Defensively, I was so impressed. And, you know, that you can level all the sorts of accusations about what Leinster team was out against us. You know, we were as affected by injuries and COVID as they were. This period is always going to be tough for smaller squads. We had, like, Sean Masterson played us out of his skin, and that's one of his first few games, you know, and he's absolutely dominated. So I think, like, on the whole, I'm so over the moon with the performance. I was listening to or reading an interview with Andy Friend earlier on today, and he just said, how can we maintain that? Well, maybe we can't. We're only human. But that is now the bar. That is now what we know we are capable of. You know, he's just raised the bar of what we know we're capable of, what we can aspire to be. Before this, it had been other performances that would never have been half as convincing as that. And then with the likes of, you know, Beelum and Bundy and Marmion and maybe Tiernan O'Halloran and McAllister, there's so many players to come back that you can only help but be quite optimistic about the potential of this Connacht team. Like, I think Andy Friend has done really, really good in building it and having a performance to back up the belief that we all had. Like, I think all of us have gone, you know, when it clicks for Connacht, they'll do well, but it had yet to really do that. And I think Andy Friend now has a performance that he can go back to week in, week out and say, that's your benchmark, that's what you're capable of doing, so go to it.
Yeah, 100%. But that is the thing as well. We've always said, like, Connacht starting 15 will be, you know, it's good enough to take on anybody. But then seeing this with the depth they have, it should be really, it should be inspiring for the rest of the team that when you do bring back in, and most of the lads come back in on early Ireland internationals, you know, so that should give them the kick on. But this was one man show and one man show only, which was Jack Carty. He played to what you guys have been saying he can play to. Obviously, the case is now is can he stay at that level? Because already the talk over the weekend is, you know, is he Ireland's number 10? Is he the man to replace Sexton? And we've said before in this podcast, well, you guys have said that he has the potential to do that, whereas I've always counted back, you know, can he do it week in, week out, obviously, and that's the next step for him. And he seems to be, obviously, as you guys said, he's a massive confidence player. This obviously should give him incredible confidence because what did he score in total? What was it?
Points.
25 points?
24?
It was 25 points. It was a record for a Connacht player in an individual match, and it is a joint record for a player against Leinster in the professional era. Some player from Ulster, I can't remember his name.
Scottish Ulster player, but he was Scottish. I think he was a 10 as well.
Yeah. So that's what he's capable of, and he was just brilliant. Like, Westy, this is obviously a great day for you guys because you have been saying how good he has been and can be.
Yeah, no, and I think I'm not saying that he was necessarily at this level, but we have seen him consistently perform. In 2018, he did steadily and consistently improve as the season went on. More people who don't watch anybody other than their own province were saying to me and Sam, how has this lad gotten into the Six Nations squad? How's he got into the pre-World Cup squad? And it was like you haven't been watching him. You haven't been seeing how he plays the ball, you know, like his vision for kicking the ball, his speed at distributing the ball. Like, these were things that me and Sam saw him come on leaps and bounds in between 2017 and 2018. Okay, a bit of a setback post World Cup, kind of has his confidence. I've said it before. He still is scapegoated for the Japan loss. He's an easy target to pick apart, even though 12 of our points came from his boot, and we were winning at 60 minutes when he left the pitch. So I don't understand how people blame
The
him.
off the ball YouTube video that I watched with I think it was O'Gara talking about him. That the first comment that was oh, how is this being considered Japan 2016 or 2016? Japan 2017?
2019 World Cup.
Sorry, 19.
Yeah.
They're saying how bad he was. Like it's still being brought up even now.
He wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the pack. It's the leaders. It's the leadership and the pack that let us down against Japan. We were out muscled by Japan. That's not your 10's fault.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And another great performance by our boy Porchy. He's just been incredible still. Like the amount of clips you could take of him, like the kick, he's the first person there. He makes a double tackle. Like he's always seems to be the first person there to, the James Lowe role, like slapping boys in the back, saying well done. Like he was just incredible. But Wesley, you've already touched on it. Halftime, 25-5 up. You could sense on Twitter and stuff, a lot of Connacht fans were sort of still worried, being like, "This, we've been here before. This is going to be the typical, And what? 3 minutes into the second half, Luke McGrath scores a try off a snipe.
Jack Carty was taken off the ball though, shouldn't have been a try.
Anyway. In fairness, he was. But at the same time, you start thinking, here we go again. But I said at the time as well, Connacht's response was so impressive to go back up the pitch, win a penalty, and for Carty to kick that score. It was only 3 points, but it was a response. It was a stop of the momentum possibly for Leinster. And we'll obviously the crossing incident then, which we're all agreed that was crossing. There was no debate about that, right? Yeah.
It was.
That would have taken us go from 28-17 to 28-24. You can sense then obviously, butt cheeks get tight and people are saying like this is going to happen again, but they didn't. And that happened earlier. That crossing incident was around 60 minutes. There was another 10 minutes then again before the intercept, Tom Daly. Connacht did really well. They didn't give up any ground. They didn't do anything stupid where you think maybe they might have. But how impressive, Sam, was that to hold on by Connacht?
Yeah, like as you mentioned, like 2018, I'm going to call it the 12 pubs game because me and Westy spread over.
Running from pub to pub to try and get the latest of what was happening.
Pegging it between the pubs down Shop Street to make sure that we don't miss much, like, because the lads run a strict half-an-hour timer. So it was 2018 Christmas period, and we were dominating 12 minutes to go, and Porter got over the line after what seemed like 150 phases. It was probably around about 20 or 30, but it was a great phase of play, and that was what we kind of were worried about, was that intensity. I was in my mind like, I'm one of the most optimistic supporters of any team. Like I rarely have a bad thing to say about the teams I support, unless they're the Philadelphia Eagles, and then it's a completely different matter. But I was like, I was just so worried about our intensity level and how hard that was going to be able to maintain with the likes of Matthew Burke and Conor Kenny and Diarmuid Kilgallen, Colin Riley, Prendergast. Like these are young lads, not that much experience, and that can be tough going away, coming on and keeping that momentum, keeping that intensity. But I think that every sub that was made kept the intensity. I think every player played out of their skin. I wouldn't point at any player from the entire Connacht 23 and say, he was actually underwhelming. I think everyone was just on point, and that was great, because I was worried that would drop at some point, and I was worried Leinster would use that to get back into it. It seemed like that might have happened straight from the kickoff, but you have to really commend the calmness and the collectiveness and kind of just the clear-headedness. And Jack Carty alluded to it in an interview I listened to with him, where he just said, you just control what's next. You don't look at what could happen down the line. That try is scored, and you just go, okay, what can we do next? Okay, we can get up onto this kickoff and we can get the ball. And Carty's kickoff was really, really smart. It was low trajectory. It was just in behind the winger. It's like turned everyone. The tackle was made. We ended up getting the penalty a couple of minutes later and putting over the 3, and that was so smart, and it was really impressive. And that really took, I think, the wind out of that comeback that Leinster were threatening. They scored early, they looked sharp, and then we got the 3, slowed it down. How long does 3 points take? It takes about 2 minutes off the clock. It takes all the momentum out of the game. I think it was so smart, and it really helped us to just keep going. And then, Tom Daly just put a big exclamation point after absolute stormer of a game with the intercept, but honest to God, being an optimistic Connacht fan, the intercept helped to completely clear off the game, but I think we were still well in control. I think defensively we were in control. I think they were running out of options very quickly. I think 2 really, really big breaks aside, we dominated most of that game.
That's the thing as well. Those two scores, obviously, as you said, Westy, Levy took out Carthy one time. The Scott Penny one was just, you were calling it during the game on the Westy and the WhatsApp, the pillars, you spotted it and then they conceded straight away. But Connacht dominated the kick inside the game. I was watching the game back today. There was at least 2 times in the first half where Connacht received the kick and then punted it back into acres of open space. And that was massive. I don't know if that was a mix-up from the Leinster lads or whatever, but incredible that they dominated that well. The real, though, player of the game was obviously Ryan Baird, because Liam Toland said so. And that's just the bottom line, lads. Okay, I know he's won. I know Connacht won, but Ryan Baird was really good. So Toland was just a different class that day, wasn't he?
Thornbury and Rue were, obviously terrible. What about Ryan Baird, huh?
Yeah, I know. Look, at this. Ryan Baird was really good, and he's going to be a fantastic player. But it's just like the blatant. I don't even know if it's bias or just. Is it just pure love for Ryan Baird that Toland has?
I think it's disregard for what's happening on the pitch. I think that there's either some sort of precedent set where they want to big up players, or it's looking through something with a lens. It happens to me quite often when I'm watching Connacht or watching Liverpool or watching the Eagles, where I'm like focusing on the positives from a Connacht point of view, and actually we're getting hockeyed. And I think that that's probably what happened. Is I genuinely do think that a lot of the commentators have a bias, if it's be it a player or be it a team, and that comes through very badly, unfortunately, on a couple of the channels we're forced to watch things on. I try to watch as much as possible on TG Car because I find it the best commentary, but I find some of the English.
And it's in Irish.
Yeah, well, some of the English language commentary and punditry is very like Leinster centric or Ulster centric or Munster centric, and I find that if you don't spread it out, or if you don't get non-ex rugby players, the commentary becomes just like an old boys club where everyone's protecting the players they like or protecting the people they like. Or at one point, Stephen Ferris was just talking about golf trips with his mates.
Yeah,
were your man McElroy's dad.
Yeah. It is. Does Toland know that he's actually being transmitted across the TV, or is he just saying that he's chatting to one of his mates? Is that what's happening? Because he seems oblivious.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it's been a bit of a narrative in the media completely this week. It's like it does seem to have hurt a lot of the journalists, be them pundits or be them print media. It seems to have hurt them, the fact that Connacht beat Leinster in the RDS, and there's a lot of excuses being printed. Like I've seen articles talking about how many Leinster players are in the Connacht setup.
Yeah.
But some of the O'Connell at the end of the match was like, "Oh, he plays play for. He used to be one of ours. He used to be one of ours."
Some of the examples they're using are players that weren't ever really in contention for Leinster. It's not like we handpicked and cherry-picked them out of the academies and they were big prospects. That might happen once, maybe twice, with the likes of Ainger and stuff. But the likes of Masterson and Healy and even like
Conor Oliver as well. I mean, he got shipped off down to Munster and then had to,
Yeah, and like these are players that weren't in contention and we stole. They're players that we gambled on and brought through our academy and have put a lot of resources into, and they're Connacht players. Doesn't matter where they were born or where they were raised, they're Connacht players. Unlike the likes of, let's say, Henshaw, who is a Connacht player who is playing in Leinster, or let's say James Lowe from Ballinasloe, who is a Bucks man through and through.
Shout out Aina for still keeping that going, in fairness to him on Twitter. Yeah, it was incredible. And looking ahead now to this Munster game, because this Munster game obviously more important than the Leinster win. Obviously the Leinster win incredible and it doesn't come around too often, but surely great confidence now, Westy, going into this Munster game this weekend, if it goes ahead.
I do think, we do have to kind of hold ourselves back a little bit, and I think we're more benefited by taking the two games as a whole.
Champions Cup winners 2021
We can do it. We just have to beat Racing and Bristol. I hope everybody else loses somehow.
Yeah.
I think we have to take both games in a bubble rather than just looking at the Leinster performance. Like, one of the things you said about the Leinster game was that we kicked really well for territory. That's an option that was taken away from us in the second half in the Ulster game because the wind picked up so much and we couldn't do it. And we didn't really, in the Ulster game, seem to have any other strategy. Now, I do think I think the kicking was extremely important, but I think we had more feathers in our bow in the Leinster game. But again, we always had the threat of the kick, which, creates space in your attacking line. You can't pack it with 14 men. You have to drop lads here and there. So that is something that we still have to find a balance between. I really think we do have to win now in the sports ground to keep credibility. I think the performance again is more important than the actual result. But you would think if we perform to the level, it doesn't have to be that level against Munster, against Leinster, but it has to be in and around there. And I think Munster would have to play very well to beat us playing at that level.
Munster losing to Ulster as well was good, obviously, because Munster lost, but you do fear a bit of a backlash, don't you, Sam?
Yeah, you'd fear a little bit of a Munster backlash. Now, I think what would have been ideal for us as Connacht supporters is that Munster won that game with a bonus point and been so far out of touch that we wouldn't be having a conversation about, getting into this new weird single playoff final. There's no quarterfinals. We'd just be talking about cementing our place in second and getting Europe next year. Unfortunately, now that Munster have lost, if we beat Munster or get a bonus point against Munster, we're getting into a contention where we are actually in with a shot of getting into the top position in Conference B. So that's going to be playing on their minds. They're going to want to really cement their position in top of the conference. And if they beat us heavily, that will do it. That will put enough of a gap between us. But not technically, but pretty much. So that will be playing on their minds. They're going to want to make a statement. I think that the Ulster game, we'll get to it, but I don't think they were very good. I don't think they were impressive, and they're going to want to up that because they've been good for the last couple of weeks, having started quite slow, but I think they were undefeated until the weekend, and now it's just Ulster left undefeated. Yeah, so they're going to want to make a statement. Connacht, I don't think the result, like Westy said, is as important as the performance, because at the moment, it's a rare thing, Connacht are being talked about by the wider media, and people are taking notice of the players like Jack Carty, who have had games like that in the past, but they've been against Cardiff and Glasgow and they've not been on TV and people haven't spoken about them. When you do it against Leinster on TV in the Interpros over Christmas, people start to take notice. So if he has another game like that, regardless of what the score is, and if players play to the best of their ability and we just happen to get beaten by them, I don't think that'll be as detrimental as if we just falter and go back to kind of the standard of play we had against Ulster last week, which was not good enough. There was a lot that we could have done a lot better in that. So I think that the performance really we need to just pick up where we left off, keep that intensity, keep it going. Friend said that there's a chance Bundy's back. Turns out it was a knee injury. He's kind of been nursing through. He said there's a chance Bundy's back, but he did say there's definitely a couple of players due back. And with the standard of players that we were missing, even if they're just in on the bench, we're going to improve the strength of the bench. So I'd be happy out just to see a good performance against Munster, keep it tight, keep within it, be in a position to win it. Obviously, go for the win if you can. But more importantly, I think, is everyone just picks up where they left off and plays to the best of their ability and plays to that benchmark that we've set for ourselves.
Can I ask you, Sam, if we get everybody back, let's say we have a full squad available on whatever tomorrow, is there any one or two changes you would like to see made, or would you kind of stick with what worked?
Bundy has to come in.
If everyone's back and you can guarantee that everyone is fit and firing, I personally would bring back Healy in for Sullivan. I think Sullivan had a very good game. He looks like a great prospect. He looks very, very strong for a winger. But I think Healy has like a lot of experience, and you bring him in the wing. Or alternatively, if you did want to get Bundy in, you brought Bundy in and moved Daly out to the wing. Might be a little bit unfair, or Arnold either, or
Arnold has played in the wing already this season.
Played in the wing, and Daly's played in the wing for us once or twice in the last year or so. But I think that if they came back and you weren't guaranteed full fitness, like if Bundy's kind of nursing something, I wouldn't risk it. And I'd say, Arnold, Daly, you've deserved to keep your spot. Bundy's there on the bench. Play as good as you can for 60 minutes. Then we'll change it up and we'll bring on the Raging Bull. Like, happy days.
Bring on Bundy. Yeah, Sammy Arnold has been fantastic. Like, even since he's joined, his work rate and aggressiveness is just fantastic. Like, he just loves work, and that's great to have.
He likes hitting people.
He does. And I chatted to one of the lads at work, and I said,
13 tackles during the match, Sammy Arnold.
That's, yeah. You're right. I was chatting to one of the lads at work, and I was saying, Connacht have so many players that you like cheering for. Does that make sense? Like, you want them to do well rather than like, oh, they're really good, whatever. Like, the lads who work hard and are honest about it, like, them the lads you actually want to get behind. And those are like, Connacht have a good few of them. Like, Daly, Arnold, Oliver, Wooten, Porty, all them boys.
Everyone loves a really small scrum half. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Everyone loves that because everyone's like, look at how hard he is. He's tough.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got quads the size of fucking.
Blade has put his foot down and said, Marmo, you have to wrestle this spot out of my hands, and that's only going to be good for Connacht. Having two Irish qualified international standard
that Andy Farrell won't select.
fight. Andy Farrell won't select, so they'll be more available for Connacht.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just don't want him to go to. Why would you just want him to go to the Irish squad? That's bad for
I'd
Connacht.
almost put money on Blady and Marmion go into the. Let's say like Blady, Marmion, and Murray go to the Ireland squad, and Blady and Marmion are still left out of the match day 23.
yeah.
Don't go to scrum half because they're from
Yeah.
Connacht. There's no point in bringing them.
Right, we've talked enough about Connacht. Enough.
Never.
We'll move on to Ulster and Munster. Oh, sorry, we'll touch on Leinster. Probably never win a game again on the way down.
Yeah, I think they're gone. I think they're done.
Right, I'm off.
Gone. Yeah,
Ulster beat them the weekend.
Oh, if they do. Speaking of Ulster, obviously Ulster do get a great win against Munster at the weekend as well. Ulster, I watched the game back.
Really important win because I watched that game and it was like they were class for like 10 minutes, and then I thought it was.
No, they dominated the game. They should have won by way more, but Munster are just so dogged. Like they just don't give up. Like, you know, they just keep on going, and they're like, "Oh, would you ever just fuck off?" You know, that's what I imagine playing against them is like. Like your man, the number 7, Clote.
Chris Clote.
I tweeted, he must be such a nightmare to play against because he's just constantly, like every ruck he's in, every ruck he's back in. It's like, just fuck off, mate. But that's Munster to a T, and that's what they've been this whole year, except they've obviously grinded out wins. But, not the strongest Munster team, again, lined out. But Ulster played some beautiful stuff. Like that first try, Billy Burns running the show, again, showing what he's capable of, especially with a pack that's moving forward. I know it's easier to do that, but he showed that what he's capable of when that does happen. The pass from Hume to Stockdale was beautiful. Great hands by Fadez then to actually hold on to the pass by Stockdale. But Ulster have shown themselves to be so dangerous off that set play, off a line out, whether it be Cooney or Burns. They're just so potent in that attack. And defensively, obviously, they might be a bit different. But Westy, watching this game, did you agree, like, they should have won by more?
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to talk about Connacht, but like similar to last weekend, Ulster were utterly dominant in the first half and probably didn't come away with as many points as they should have. And then similar to us last weekend, they kind of weren't as good the following weekend. The difference is they probably had a little bit more composure than we had, and managed their game slightly better to come away with the win. I think again, up until 20 minutes after that game, Billy Burns was definitely my start in Ireland 10 afterwards. I thought he brings such creativity. He's really quick player of the ball, really intelligent player of the ball. That kick across to McElroy was brilliant and a really strong finish. I thought James Hume, his ball distribution was just amazing. I do think that some of the last passes for Ulster left a bit to be desired. The pass to Fadez for the try was a bit on ahead of him. He had to fumble it. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was a similar situation where Fadez fed the ball out and the pass didn't come across.
Yeah, that was to Hume.
Yeah. So I think there's so many great individuals there at Ulster, and when it comes together as a working machine, it's brilliant. And I think it was brilliant for 50 or 60 minutes even. But again, as you said, Munster, that team where like they're just going to be in your face the entire game. But I think, again, look, you can't write off Ulster what they had to do. Munster aren't in their conference. They just wanted to get out there and win. Their big game is this weekend, and I think they were probably had that in the back of their minds, even playing us and Munster.
Is it, Sam, is it a thing that Ulster weren't clinical enough, or is it a case just Munster were just so, like, just don't give up?
I don't think Ulster kicked on. Like Westy said 50 or 60 minutes. I was bored a little bit after about 20, to be honest. I thought Ulster came out and I was going, oh, brilliant, this is going to be a serious game. And then Munster took it down a notch and made it very kind of stop-starty and kind of not quite as cohesive as it was in the first 20 minutes. I thought that the first try was brilliant, and then I think that Munster just made it very, very difficult to play against them, and then kind of pulled their way back and looked good in patches as well. But, I don't think exerted themselves overly. I think Ulster really will be feeling like they left a lot out on the pitch. It could have been, they could have gotten 2 more tries. They could have gotten a bonus point win, because there was a lot of play that just didn't quite come off, and I think that's unfortunate. And they'll be feeling that, and they'll know that as well. I think that there were some really, really good performances. I thought Billy Burns was absolutely brilliant. I like the idea that Billy Burns, Harry Byrne, Jack Carty you're going to push each other and drive each other on to replace Sexton, or to at least, push on to be understudy to Sexton. And if Billy Burns plays like that, one day and Carty plays the way he played an hour later, like that's only going to be good for Ireland. I thought he ran it brilliantly. I think he led the line very well. He had good vision for that McIlroy try. It was Hume who gave the pass out to Stockdale, wasn't it? For the fattest try. Yeah, that pass looked so normal and so easy, but it was brilliantly weighted. He took right to the line, and Stockdale's line is beautiful. It's on the kind of weaker shoulder, the outside shoulder, and he gets round him and he opens up, and his pass. Thank God Fatty's had the wherewithal to be able to bring it in and reel it in, because it was
great grab.
It was a great grab, one-handed OBJ out there.
It was, it was beautiful.
But it was a good display. But I think Ulster will kind of kick themselves and just kind of say, they could have gotten more out of it. But that's not to take away from Munster, who, like the Claremont game a couple of weeks ago, just don't say die. And they've been winning ugly this season. They've been winning well this season. They've been hard to play against, and they didn't give up at all. And even deep into injury time, they were forcing every issue and going for it and got there, losing bonus points. So fair play to them. I thought that McIlroy on the wing was very, very good. He not just the try, which was a beautiful bit of vision by Burns and good finish, but also he had a massive tackle on Daly on the wing, forcing that, and that kind of saved the try then as well. But Ben Healy was, he was good. He wasn't quite up there with Billy Burns or
off to Scotland. Full send him.
He's gone.
Now, he's out.
Yeah, but and then Chris Cloete was how do you pronounce it, Westy?
I think it's Cloete.
Yeah, because
it's Cloete.
he kind of busted onto the scene a few years ago and he's been good, but then now that I thought he was very, very good at the weekend. So I think Munster will have had another eye on the Connacht game, but they'll be a little bit disappointed that they're now not unbeaten. Ulster will be happy out that they are unbeaten. And Ulster have a massive, massive opportunity against Leinster this week. Get a big win against Leinster this week, and that's huge for them, because with the league being the way it is this year, with the one-off game final, no quarterfinals, semi-finals, Ulster, they can't draw Leinster in the final, and you want to think as an Ulster supporter that Leinster are the only team that would really beat them, I think. So if they just finish ahead of Leinster, they have a chance to win some silverware, and it's been a good while since that's happened. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think Munster if Munster get into a final, I don't think they'll be beaten. The way they're going, it's just the way that they're grinding at results. I think it's just their year. But speaking of Ethan McIlroy, did you know his dad played golf with Steve Burns? In case I just wasn't sure if you were else.
I heard a couple of about a 3-4 minute anecdote in the middle
of it. Oh, did you hear as well? Darren Cave, my mate, Darren Cave. So he was saying when they scored their first try, he was like, "Oh, Stockdale looks like a 15 to me."
I heard that. It was.
It's just like, move on, man. You're just so petty about it.
Was there a dead horse there that needed a good flogging, was it?
It was.
Make sure
exactly.
I did think, I thought coming out of the game, for me, the highlight of the game was Dave Kilcoyne coming back on, because was it August the last time he played?
Yeah, I think so.
How long has he's been out? A good while. And
it's been great. I like Kilcoyne.
He's a great player. He seems like a good bloke. So I was happy to see him come on, which was
same with Leinster game. Any game Dan Levy doesn't get injured is another
exactly.
bank, I think.
And images today, Tyke Furlong back training. That was pretty cool. But
the battle, in case of emergency, has he been ready and
he's like, we lost a game. I better start playing again. But the battle of the first half was John Cooney versus Craig Casey to the dressing room.
Yeah,
at halftime. There hasn't really been an explanation of why that happened.
I've heard, and I think this is brilliant pettiness from Cooney, if this is genuinely the case, is
I hope so.
Apparently Casey has a thing about being first into the dressing room. So someone had said this on another podcast earlier on in the week that I was listening to, and they were saying that Casey has a thing about being first into the dressing room at halftime, and if it's the case that Cooney knew about this and wanted to get in his head and under his skin, so decided to get ahead of him, it's absolutely the best pettiness. And
I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm here for that. Cooney's it was brilliant again this weekend. I still think he's the best scrum half in Ireland. I still don't know why it's even a debate, but again, we'll see. He won't get probably selected. But Munster fans not happy with the ref during this game, and in fairness, at the end, McCluskey did stop that maul pretty much illegally. That was in the 71st minute. If that goes over, they're back within a few points. That's a big game changer. The Tom Ahern decision, I think, though, the ref did say on the mic that he clearly saw a hand underneath it, so it is hard to argue against that. But Wesley, what did you think? Did you think the ref was okay, or was there some decisions that went against Munster?
Look, there was definitely decisions that went against Munster. Whether you can say it's unfairly, decisions are going to go against everybody. I think with the Tom Ahern try, I think there's clearly multiple hands under that ball. Like I didn't see a ball go to ground. So I'd be surprised.
Was it not a double movement as well?
Maybe
he does stop, get back on his knees, and go again. But he
could argue it always looks harder in slow motion, you see, because that could have been his momentum. You're allowed to hit the ground and lurch for the line. So when it's slowed down, it kind of looks like you stop and then get up and go again. But, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was the movement.
It's 6'9" as well, so that helps.
I don't think it was particularly hard on Munster. I mean, look, maybe at a home game, usually the crowd helps influence, and maybe a couple of decisions did go Ulster's way, but that's rugby. That happens. I mean, you really can't bitch too badly about decisions after.
There is one decision,
they tend to balance out.
There is one decision that happened. It's the yellow laid on with the scrum penalty. The Munster scrum is absolutely dominant, and Ulster go down, and it's a carbon copy of something that happened last week in the Connacht game. Ulster went down after being pushed back by a metre. So you get the penalty, you get the yellow card, whatever it is, but you get the penalty in front of the posts. You don't get the penalty try because they're saying, it's the infringement happened before the penalty was driven across. But like they're going down to stop it being driven across. It is stopping that try scoring movement, and I think that's done on purpose because I think they know they're being dominated and they're 5 out, so they go down to take the penalty because it gives them more chance of not conceding than to concede the penalty try if they were driven over, which I think needs to be looked at as a decision. There was a ref on Twitter said it was the right decision. Be that if you think it's the correct decision according to the rules, but if you think that should be the correct decision, I don't think it should. I think if you're getting dominated inside your own five by a scrum and you go down like that, you're going down because you know you're being dominated and you're going to be driven over the line. So that is, in my opinion, a professional foul, stopping the try. That's kind of just one thing that I picked up on. Another, you're saying with the try that they couldn't tell if it was down the Ahern one. There's also something similar happened in the Connacht one where I think the ref asks the TMO a wrong question. And that happens sometimes where the ref says, I can't see it. And then the question is asked and the TMO can actually overrule it. But because of the question that was asked, it doesn't allow for it. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. If you're asking vaguer questions, you're getting vaguer answers is probably the downside to that. So I don't know. But, it's what did the ref on the pitch said he could see hands underneath it. Is there any reason why he can't award it? That's unfortunately that's the only thing the TMO is allowed to change. Whereas sometimes the TMO can see blatantly wrong decisions by the ref, but because the wording of a question, they're not allowed to overrule it.
Yeah, I think they should be maybe a default rule to be saying like if they're not sure, they should rule it as a not a try and then let the TMO decide if it is or not. If they say they don't think it's a try, prove me wrong, basically. I think that's probably better than saying, I think, if they rule it a try and then they can say, I think it's just easier to do it that way. But we'll see. We're not here to, I don't like talking about referees too often. It's not very interesting to listen to. But Ulster,
Why'd you ask us about the refs, Murph? Jesus Christ.
Well, I just for a minute or two, just give a little taste of refs. The Ulster Leinster game, how many rounds are left then? Is this the last round by the calendar?
This is the last scheduled one, but I think they're adding to it. I don't know exactly what that is or has that been announced yet.
I think, judging by other seasons, you're going to play everyone in your conference again one more time.
Okay, so there's still plenty of games left.
Yeah, finished by the 17th of April. Is that when the Rainbow Cup is supposed to start?
Yeah, but realistically, are we seeing that Rainbow Cup going ahead? I can't see how. I don't even know how they're going to be able to continue this league. I don't see international travel being allowed between Ireland and the UK. The numbers here and the numbers there are both mental. I don't know how they're going to be able to.
Because we'll be bored sitting at home otherwise, Sam. Okay, stop being selfish, Sam.
What are we going to podcast about? We can't do more rugby rewatches. We can watch that Connacht game again.
Yeah. That's just too.
Rugby back. Is that back soon?
Yeah, I know. I seen a thing the other day about remember the North and South game. God, that was. It seems like so long ago now. But yeah, exactly. Well, if Ulster go ahead and beat Leinster this weekend, and the cat really is amongst the pigeons. I know Leinster still have plenty of games left, and more than likely will go unbeaten. But still, it'd be great to see them kind of knocked off their perch in the Pro14 regardless. But All right, boys, it was great to discuss a bit of rugby again. First one in 2021. Looking forward to next week. Hopefully we have some rugby to discuss over the next few weeks. And yes, get the last few Connacht flashes in there. God, this has become a Connacht podcast and it makes me sick.
You know what? Master of None became a Connacht podcast.
Yeah.
So
If you could produce one piece of Ulster merchandise, we won't become a Connacht podcast. You have 10 seconds. Go.
I wanted to buy one on the jersey, but they didn't have it in my size. It's not my fault, Westy, that Elveries don't have the goods, okay?
Well, Connacht loves you, so we made one for your size. So Ulster Clear doesn't care about you as a fan, so join the dark side.
Yeah. Damn it. God damn you. All right, boys. Appreciate it as always. We'll do it next week. Chat to you then.
yeah, then.
Anyways.